Hi, my name is Shailene Brennan, and today I'm going to be discussing and reflecting upon my experience taking Humanities 200 with my professor, Miss Danielle DeRise. In this class, we focus on the human body and reading literature and text and analysis of the human body. And due to this and many more reasonings is why I chose this class to do my honors option. Many of the texts and literature that we read had to do with the human body. It had to do with body image, but what I'm going to be focusing on today in my reflection of my Humanities 200 class is disabilities of the human body. Although there is many literature and texts that we read regarding disabilities, the one I'm going to be honing in on today, it's called The Myth of Bodily Perfection by Miss Sharon Dale Stone. The title of this piece, The Myth of Bodily Perfection, is ironic in the sense that that's exactly what this whole entire text is about. Perfection is an illusion. Being disabled is an elusive category, and I'm going to break down this text and analyze it for you in this film. Not only is this work about people with disabilities and how they're discriminated against, but it's also regarding women and their discrimination, especially when they have disabilities. The abstract of this work states, the paper identifies the myth of bodily perfection as one that permeates the dominant culture of the late 20th century Western civilization, and points to ways in which the myth supports the creation of an elusive category of people called the disabled. Grounded in an understanding of disability as socially constructed and drawing on the experiences of women with disabilities, the paper further points to important differences in social expectations, depending on whether one has a disability that are visible or invisible. In discussions of disability, however, disabilities that are not visible are often ignored. It is concluded that this contributes to the widespread denial of disabilities and its oppression. So after reading the abstract of the piece, it kind of gives you a sense of exactly what this text and literature is going to be about. In this film, I'm going to be talking about the summary of the whole entire piece, themes that emerge throughout, connections to society today, and also connections to my future and why this class and why texts such as this will help me in my future endeavors. In this piece, Ms. Sharon Dale Stone focuses a lot on visible versus invisible disabilities and argues that visible disabilities is most widely discriminated against versus invisible disabilities, just in the sense that we can see the disability. Of course, if you see someone that doesn't have an arm or doesn't have a leg, that's a visible disability that you can see right away. But if someone has an invisible disability, such as Down syndrome or even autism, that's something that society can't clearly see right away, and due to this, that makes their judgment a lot less. However, this is ironic in the sense that people with a visible disability feels alone in the world because they feel like those who have an invisible disability are in the same category as them, which is why people with a visible disability are more heavily discriminated against and feel more alone. Another category that Stone really focuses on is religion and how religion, in specific Christianity, has led to this oppression of those with disabilities and those who are considered imperfect. The religion of Christianity places a great importance on the human body. It states that we should treat our body as a temple and that it must be kept pure. Ms. Sharon Dale Stone states, the body in Christian belief is regarded as a boundless source of shame, self-alienation, and pain. Not only does the religion of Christianity focus and have great importance and emphasis on the human body and keeping your human body pure and treated as a temple, but it also discriminates women from the very beginning. In God's eyes, he states that men were created perfect, which means women were created imperfectly. In Dale's piece, she states, Christianity is the belief that not only is God perfect, but that God created man in his image, which means that man came from perfection. Yet, because man is human, he is marked by sin and has become fundamentally imperfect. Therefore, it is a man's duty to strive to overcome his perfection so that he can return to perfection when he dies. Women, on the other hand, was not created in God's image, at least not according to conventional interpretations, meaning that a woman is not perfect to begin with. So, women have even more reason than men to strive for perfection. What Dal is trying to communicate in her piece is that not only are women created imperfectly, but they strive their whole entire lives trying to reach this perfection. If you have a disability or if you have some sort of imperfection, women are already discriminated against from the beginning. The next topic that Dal touches upon is the definitions of disabilities and impairments and why they have the consequences that they do in the world. The definitions that are generally accepted by the public are from the World Health Organization. These definitions treat disability as a problem residing within the individual, already discriminating them right off the bat. These definitions create oppression for these disabled individuals. In the text, Dal states, "This myth of bodily perfection encourages the definition of only a minority of the population as people with disabilities and justifies treating them as other. This is oppressive, not just for those who are unproblematically recognized as people with disabilities, but ultimately for everyone, because it keeps us all alienated from our bodies. It prevents us from acknowledging and accepting that we all of us have limits to our abilities." In other words, Dal is saying that these definitions creates an other category, and because of that, they are alienated. But it does not take into account that each and every one of us has an own disability of our own. Sometimes they're visible, sometimes they're not. But it could be as little as having double jointed fingers or as large as not being able to walk. These definitions paint a picture that people with disabilities are essentially helpless and dependent. According to Dal, in a recent study done based upon Canadian attitudes, say that on a whole, we as individuals cannot move past treating people with disabilities as unfortunate and pitiable. Another topic that Ms. Sharon Dale Stone focuses on is the politics on appearance and appearance norms. Throughout history, we as a society have tried to cover up those who have disabilities. We try to fix them by using surgeries that could be detrimental and extremely dangerous. Instead of just accepting these individuals for who they are and the disabilities and imperfections they might possess, we try to fix them by having doctors and surgeries and countless operations come in. Instead of accepting these individuals for who they are and the disabilities or imperfections that they might possess, we as a society try to hide them, or we try to fix them, no matter what the cost is. This topic that Ms. Sharon Dale Stone points out was really eye-opening to me. In the past, I figured if someone has a disability and surgeons or doctors can fix that disability, why wouldn't we do it? But this prudent society into thinking that these individuals with a disability need to be fixed, and because of that, oppression and discrimination occurs. The next topic that the author goes on to discuss is women and their appearances. Women are judged by their bodies, meaning that women are particularly vulnerable to culturally prescribed appearance norms. Women are criticized and judged every single day for their body. However, men, on the other hand, are not criticized and judged as harshly and as often as women. A quote in this piece that really stuck out to me is, quote, "Women are more than likely than men to tell a doctor about a health problem, but women are also trained to shield friends and acquaintances from the knowledge of personal costs of pretending to be an able body. It is evident that many disabled women fear that they cannot balance the friendship scales if they reveal their actual physical situation. Thus, they take refuge in hiding their real physical needs and or costs of ignoring them. In other words, women would rather be afraid, sad, and alone than accepting and telling their friends of the disabilities they may possess." Dale Stone goes on to state, "In a world in which people with disabilities are objectified as the alien, other, it makes sense to work at passing for normal, to pretend that one has nothing in common with the disabled. It makes sense to ignore the ways in which we can identify with living a body that has impairments." In other words, It makes sense why people try to hide their disabilities and why we try to ignore them and why we try to label those with a disability as the other or as an alien. But why does it make sense? Because the world taught us it does. In the conclusion of this piece, Miss Dalstone states, confronting the impressiveness of the myth of bodily perfection will require acknowledging that there is really no adequate justification for labeling only some of us, people with disabilities. Bodily suffering and discomfort are part of the human experience. Continuing to act as though this were not a basic truth oppresses not only those who do not have the privilege of being able to hide their disabilities, it oppresses each one of us. Acknowledging our disabilities does not mean acknowledging our own helplessness. It means acknowledging and honoring our humanness. What Dalstone is saying is that embracing all of our disabilities and acknowledging the fact that we all have a disability will help to diminish and demolish this oppressive nature. Although I have read many direct quotes from Miss Sharon Dalstone's piece, this one quote has stuck out to me the most, and I think does a great job of summarizing the whole entire text. It states, our society creates an ideal model of the physically perfect person, where people are encumbered by weakness, loss, or pain. It is towards this distortion of perfection that we all strive and with which we all identify. Thus, denial of the existence of imperfections is an acceptable form of a behavior and attitude. Bodily perfection is a myth. It's an illusion. And if we as society put a stop to striving to obtain this ideal body, we can end this oppressive nature to those with a disability. In my future endeavors, I'll be working as a speech-language pathologist with a concentration in special education, meaning I will work with the population of individuals with disabilities all my life. Since I'll be working with this population so heavily in my future, this piece really was eye-opening to me. Before reading this text and analyzing it and really dissecting it for what it is, I generally understood the sense of disabilities and why those with the disabilities are oppressed or alienated by society. However, Miss Sharon Dalstone's piece was eye-opening in the sense of so many different aspects. So many different themes emerge that I can now consider and take with me in my future endeavors. For example, just the word and the definition of disabled. It's oppressive. And when I work with my clients who do have a disability, I will never, ever mention the word disabled. I want them to feel equal and that they are on the same level and playing field as me, and they can strive and do anything they want and can do in life. In my future, I want my patients and my clients to know they are not impaired. They're special. We're all impaired. We're all special. We're all equals. And I want them to know that truth down to their core. I will also consider in my future career how discriminated women in specific are with disabilities and how I will carry that into my therapy sessions. Not only in my job will I be a clinician and helping individuals work on their cognition and their speech and language skills, but this piece was very eye-opening in the sense that I'm also a therapist. I need to be there for these individuals. I need to hear their thoughts. I need to hear their concerns. I need to hear their worries. I need to help them in any way I can because they are alien in our society and this needs to come to an end. Overall, taking this humanities course was extremely helpful and beneficial for me. Not only do texts such as these open up my eyes to certain issues and will help my future endeavors in my future career, but it helped me in the sense of my reading skills, my writing skills, and also being open to discuss topics that are hard to talk about, such as disabilities and society's oppression against these individuals. My professor, Professor Danielle Durais, did a great job at providing a comfortable discussion environment for students. In class before, sometimes I was apprehensive to speak, especially on certain topics that were hard to talk about. But Professor Danielle DeRise did an amazing job of encouraging us students to talk about these issues in society and how we, as students, can help to contribute to the end of these oppressive topics. Honestly, it was probably one of my favorite classes I've ever taken, and I'm so grateful to have been enrolled in this course. What I've learned, not only just from reading the piece, The Myth of Bodily Perfection, but from also all the other works and literature I've read throughout the course, will help me tremendously in my future. Not only have I learned certain themes and certain topics that I really didn't know much about in the past, but in my career, pieces and texts such as The Myth of Bodily Perfection will help me immensely in my future. It gave me a different mindset. It opened up my eyes to many different topics. And for that, I'm extremely thankful.